In this video presentation, we talk about principal, interest, amount, and then simple interest. But first, let's talk about only these three terms, that is principal, interest, and amount. Imagine you have to buy this truck and the price of this truck is rupees 20 lakh. But you don't have enough money to buy this. In order to buy it, you borrow some money from a bank and you borrow an amount of rupees 15 lakh. Okay. Now in this case, bank gives you this amount rupees 15 lakh for a period of 1 year. That is, you have to return back this amount of 15 lakh back to the bank within 1 year. It means that if bank lends you this amount, let's say today is 29th March 2020, you have to pay this amount back to the bank by 28 March 2021. But here is a thing, here is a condition that is given by the bank to you, and that is they will charge some amount on this amount given to you. They will charge some amount. Okay? Let's discuss them one by one. Since you are borrowing money, so in this case, you become the borrower. Bank is lending you money. The bank lends you this amount. Bank is lender. The amount borrowed from the bank or the amount that bank lends to you is called principal. Principal. Or sometimes it is said sum. But more often than not, we usually call it principal. This time period for 1 year is the time period within which you have to return this amount back to the bank. And since we said bank is going to charge you some amount on this principal, okay, that is actually interest. That is actually called interest. That particular amount that bank will charge you on this principal is called interest, and it is given at some interest rate. That is given at some interest rate. Don't worry, I'm going to explain you each and everything in a very detailed way. Okay, let's denote interest rate by R, percent. It's usually in percent. Okay, so interest rate is R%. This interest is I. Let's denote it with I. This time period for 1 year, let's denote it with T, by T, and this principal by P. Okay, as I said, exactly within 1 year you have to pay back this amount, rupees 15 lakh, back to the bank, but with some charge. Let's see that. What amount you will pay back? You'll pay back the total amount. Let's denote it with by A, amount A. That will be this principal plus the interest, the charge that bank charges you on this principal, this interest. You have to pay it back to the bank within 1 year. Therefore, A, that is amount, is equal to P plus I. Okay. Now, if you're wondering what this then interest I is, how to calculate it? As I said, bank gives you this amount at an interest rate of R%. Okay, so that will be P, the principal, times, let me, R% of the principal amount. R% of the principal amount. Let me show you with this example. What is P here? P is rupees 15 lakh. Okay, let's say the interest rate, that is R%, that bank asks for is 10%. Let's say that is 10%. So interest rate, that is R, is what? 10%. This 10%, that is interest rate, is on the principal amount given to you, this principal. So the interest will be calculated using this interest rate and on this principal amount. Therefore, I, from here, 10% off this principal amount, that is 15 lakh. 15 lakh. Again, interest rate is to calculate the interest, and this interest is calculated on this principal amount. So the interest is 10% of this principal amount. 10% of this principal amount. So if you solve it, it gives you I as rupees 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 and 4, 3 and 4. So this interest is rupees 1,50,000. It means what? By the end of 1 year, you have to pay an amount, the total amount A, 15 lakh plus this interest, that is 1,50,000. Right? So remember these two formulas. This is the total amount that you have to pay back to the bank by the end of 1 year, and that is principal plus interest. Interest is always on this principal amount, and in order to calculate the interest, you'll have a rate. You have a rate percent interest rate. Then you can calculate the interest using rate percent and the principal amount. So you have to pay back this, and if you add this up, it comes as A is equal to, so this is 16,50,000. Okay, so we discussed about principal, we discussed about interest, right? And we discussed about amount that we have to pay. Right. Now, as we discussed here, that your day starts from, the time period starts from 29th March 2020 and the last day is 28th March 2021. So what bank will do is, it will take this amount, that is 16,50,000. The bank takes this amount and it divides it by 12. It divides it by 12, right? So when it divides it by 12, it fixes the monthly amount that you have to pay back to the bank every month. Let's say this is March and ends at 28th March. So in between there will be 12 months. So in each month you have to pay this amount, that is 16,50,000 divided by 12. Of course, it gives us the monthly amount. So every month you have to pay some amount, and that you get by this. That is total amount divided by 12. That fixes your monthly amount that you have to pay back to the bank. Now, let's move to another point, that is simple interest. What happens is, let's say that you want this amount, that you have borrowed this amount from the bank, that is 15 lakh, not for 1 year, but let's say for 3 years. Let's say for 3 years. In this case, time period T is now 3 years. T is now 3 years. Okay. Now, look very carefully. In this case, that is from here, I comes as P times R or R times P, whatever you want to say. P times R divided by 100, right? And of course, this was for 1 year only. So if this was for 1 year interest, then what will be the interest for 3 years? Of course, bank has given you this amount for 3 years, right? So this is only for 1 year, but in case of 3 years, that is time for 3 years, this will be 3 times I, right? This interest will be for 3 years because you have borrowed in this scenario for 3 years, and that is what is called that simple interest. Whenever you are borrowing some amount from the bank for more than 1 year, that is for multiple years, in that case you calculate the simple interest and not the interest that we just learned about. We have learned about. No. In this case, the interest will be for 3 years. Why? Because for 1 year is this interest. Therefore, for 3 years, this will 3 times I. Right? So it means that in this case, that is 1,50,000. That will become 3 times 1,50,000. It means now this formula in case of simple interest becomes, let me delete something here. Now this formula becomes I is equal to P times R times T divided by 100, right? For simple interest. If it's only for 1 year, you can take this, right? Because in that case, this T will be what? This T will be only 1. But in this case, it's for 3 years. So when it becomes 3 years, in that case, you have to calculate simple interest, because you calculate simple interest when it is being given, the principal is being given to you for more than 1 year, right? So this will be the formula: principal times rate times T, the time period. Everything is same. It's just like here you are multiplying a new term, that is time period, because the amount that is being given to you is for more than 1 year, the simple interest. But here is the thing: usually bank does not give you any principal on simple interest, right? They actually use the concept of compound interest. This concept of simple interest is very, very rarely used. Now, if you think that what is compound interest, then we leave this discussion for for future videos. For now, you just have to know this simple interest and this formula, that is P times R times T divided by 100. The amount is equal to P plus I, that is P plus interest. So when you are calculating simple interest, this amount will become A is equal to principal plus simple interest, right? So this is the concept of principal, interest, amount and simple interest. Let's take some problems. If person A pays an interest of rupees 750, so person A pays an interest of rupees 750 for 2 years. Now clearly this interest means in this case is simple interest, because the time period in this case is more than 1 year. So this is simple interest. Time period is how much? Is 2 years for these many years. On a sum means principal, as we have discussed, principal or sum. sum of rupees 4,500. Therefore, P is equal to rupees 4,500. Find the rate of interest. R is being asked for. Okay, then that's very simple. If you remember what we have discussed here, this one, right? So the simple interest you can denote it with only I only. Simple interest I will be equal to P times R times T divided by 100. It means I is equal to, what's P? P is rupees 4,500. What's R that we have to calculate? Let's denote it by R only. Right. Use some different color. And what's the T? Is 2 years. Divided by 100. What's the interest? Interest is 750. Is 750. Now, if you solve it, if you cross product it, this becomes 75,000, and this becomes R times, if you multiply this one, excuse me, it becomes 90,000. 2, 5, 10, 4, 90, 9,000, sorry. So it becomes 9,000. And when you solve it, it is 75,000 times 9,000. And this is actually, R is actually, so if this is 9, 8, 8, 9, 8, 72, 3, and this 9, this person. I have written this in the form of mixed number, right? You can write it in the form of decimal number or in the form of mixed number as you wish. I have chosen the mixed number representation here. So this is R is equal to this mixed number representation. Okay. Now this is the way to calculate any missing simple term that is being asked for. Okay, in this case, R was missing, so we have calculated R in this way. You have to remember this formula. Okay, let's move to another problem. If a person A gives an interest of rupees 45, okay, for 1 year, at 9% rate per annum. Okay, per annum means per, this P dot A, this abbreviation means per annum or per year, right? So the R has been given to us, is that is 9%. The R is given to us, that is 9%. This is the rate. What is the sum he has borrowed? So you have to calculate P. Again, the same formula, that is interest is equal to P times R times T over 100. In this case, T is only for 1 year. So this becomes I is equal to P times R. Why? Because this is 1 over 100. Right? Now you can put the values. So what's the I? I is 45. What's the P that you have to calculate? Let's use some different color. Times, what's the R? It's 9. So this is 100. If you solve it, it becomes cross product. P times 9 is equal to 4,500. P becomes 4,500 divided by 9. and this P comes as rupees 500, right? If you divide 4500 by 9, you get P as rupees 500. So this is the principle, that bank gives to you at interest rate of 9% per annum for 1 year, and therefore on that interest comes as rupees 45. Okay, so a quick revision what we have discussed so far. Principal is the amount that bank lends you, that gives to you. Interest, okay, first principal, then let's talk about its time period. If time period is for more than 1 year, you calculate, that is called the simple interest. And interest is what? The amount that bank charges you on the principal, and it is calculated using a interest rate that bank decides that at what interest rate they will charge you for this principal. Using this interest rate, that is R, you calculate the interest. So once you get the interest, you can calculate the amount, that is A, that you have to pay back to the bank. That will be P plus I. P is the principal, that is 15 lakh, that of course you have to return back to the bank in any case. With this interest, that is the extra amount that is being charged at an interest rate of this R on this principal. So A is equal to P plus I, right? And whenever, suppose you are taking for 1 year, so the bank divides that amount that you have to pay back to the bank for 12 months. So simply they will divide this A by 12 when you are taking for 1 year. If it's for 2 years, it's for 3 years, it's for 4 years, that they will decide on that basis. But usually bank never gives you any principal on simple interest. It always takes compound interest into consideration, but we are not going to discuss here. Okay, thanks for watching.